Hey guys, I know I've been absent MIA since forever ago, but we're back. We're back. I'm gonna try to be more consistent with the therapist corner because I feel like it might be a really big need right now. So my girl Channy is back helping me out, and so we're just gonna jump right into some of the questions that you guys may have for the therapist.
So, first question is going to be, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about therapy, about therapists, or anything like that?
So therapy as a whole, people have this misconception that therapists just come in and sit and talk to you for an hour, and that we don't do any like actual work. Like we just sit and listen to you guys for an hour. Like we just sit and talk. And I think because a lot of movies and a lot of different things, they don't show the other side of therapy, which is you really give them you're interrupting patterns. Mm-hmm. You're forcing them to, one, go and do the work themselves because, one, you're asking a stranger, you're asking a stranger to help you unclutter your life.
Right.
And so we can give you the tools, we can give you different things to try and do, but if you don't do the work yourself, what are we doing?
That's actually really interesting because, now I think about it, I don't really think about what it is that my therapist does outside of the session, specifically for me as a client.
Because there's so many different things, and because we have so many different clients, and it's so many different things that each client comes with. There's not just one thing that we do, but we do have to think about so each day we know I'm going to see this number of clients. Mm-hmm. At my job within the school day, I never knew which child I was going to see, but I knew each week I had to see them. So I would at least know, okay, we left off here. So when they come back, I can have this intervention or this thing or that thing. So with children, it's easier to get them to talk or process when they're having their hands or they're having some sort of sensory being stimulated. Mm-hmm. Even the same thing with adults. However, with adults, it's a lot easier to just get them to talk instead of, because then if you have them play a game, they're overthinking oh my gosh, I have to win the game. No. I still need you to talk. But with kids, they think the game is a part of what's happening, and their focus is on the game. So when you're asking them questions a part of the game, they're not thinking that you're actually getting them to open up about something else. Mm-hmm. So it's backwards as hell. But yeah, we do a lot as far as fighting with insurance, fighting with Medicaid, fighting with the company to make sure they're not making wild changes that might interrupt your services. And also, we're always researching and looking at different interventions that may work for you. Mm-hmm. And that goes into the other misconception that everybody thinks it's cookie cutter. It just, here, take this and it'll work.
Right.
The greatest thing my professors always told me in my master's degree was, when it comes to therapy, it's never black or white. Therapy is literally the gray every time. Mm-hmm. It never changes from the gray, because I used to ask direct questions and he was like, it depends. Depends on what, sir? That doesn't answer the question. So sometimes I find my clients get frustrated because they're like, well, what about this? It depends. It depends. They was like, depends on what? You. What choice do you have? The choice to make a decision about this. It's about you. So if you feel like this is what you want to do, hey, go ahead. If that's what you want to try, or if that's what you would like to do, go ahead and do that. Now, let's think about what's going to happen if you were to do that. Mm-hmm. You have to literally break it down to them to show them that you are literally always walking in the line of gray. Mm-hmm. There is no black, there is no white. There is a gray because you never know which way it's going to go.
Right.
You don't get to control that.
I think a lot of people kind of go into therapy looking for the answer.
Right, and there's no one answer for it. because you can do the right thing and then have 7 other things roll into place. Now you have to deal with those 7 other things. Or you can do something that's kind of like, I probably shouldn't have done that. But now you have to acknowledge that you did it. Then you have to deal with the consequences that come with it. And then you have to go through the consequences, and then go back and find something else to do it a different way that could be more beneficial for you in that moment. So it's kind of like, the misconception is, the biggest misconceptions are therapists are just talking to you for an hour, that there's no real training or interventions or different skills that they're giving you, and then that it's just black or white, or it's a clear-cut answer for everything.
That makes sense.
And that's just not the case. All right. Anything else?
Yes.
Oh boy, your face is scaring me. All right, what's the next question?
So a lot of times people kind of pair therapy with their like marijuana usage or like smoking weed. There's like so many schools of thought on this. Okay. I've heard like therapists be like, no, don't do that, it's terrible. And then like other therapists be like, that's dope, great. Where do you lie in that realm?
Okay. So I actually condone it.
Okay.
However, there's levels to it. If you are using marijuana to escape your problems, I want you clear-headed. I don't want you using it.
Right.
But if you're having like an anxiety attack, or you find yourself having certain moments where you feel like, and you don't like how you feel on prescription like pills, and you find that, because we do have medicinal weeds that are for anxiety, depression, whatever, they have certain things within it where they're able to function.
Right.
They're not smoking it all day, every day. But when they, as a need for it, when they feel it about to arise, they kind of take a puff or two. I'm here for all of that. Everything is within reason. I know there's quite a few people, I'll never forget it. I was in my diagnosing class and we were learning about our diagnostic manual. They actually have a cannabis use disorder as a diagnosis.
I did not know that.
Yes. So there's alcohol use disorder, and then there's cannabis use disorder. Both of those are in our, we call it the DSM for short, because diagnostic manual is just too much. And I forgot what S meant. So
I learned about that book in my AP Psych class.
It is the holy Bible of therapy. It is very much, we fight about this in our world all the time. It is very much like not, it's not great. Like they had gender dysphoria at one moment for transgenders. They had something else. It was something else. We were like, really, why would you do that? But cannabis use disorder is literally just saying, so any of our diagnoses are literally about how they impair your function. So you could be sad some days, but it doesn't impair your function. That does not make you a major depressive candidate or a bipolar candidate or what's the other ones? There's so many. Or generalized anxiety. Like they don't make you candidates for that. You can have moments where, like, you can have situational moments where you like feel like, oh my gosh, I'm having a panic attack. Okay.
The difference of like to be depressed and to have depression.
No.
No?
No. You can be sad about something and not be depressed. Again,
right. Yeah.
It's about like, but you're saying to have depression. It's not depression. It's just sad. I'm just sad today.
Oh, yeah.
But
so like regular, like not
nothing that impairs the way you eat, sleep, breathe, function.
Breathe?
If it breathe. No, for real. Because if you think about it, if you have trouble breathing and an anxiety attack.
Oh, okay.
That's impairing your function.
Yeah.
So eat, sleep, breathe, socialize. If you're a person that normally hangs out with friends and then one day or 2 weeks in a row, you're isolating yourself, that's something to think about. That's something to look at. Or you're stealing to get your weed. Or you're selling stuff, or you're trying to do some very unsavory things to get a fix. That's where these different diagnoses come into play.
Right.
So that's where cannabis use disorder comes into play. The duration.
It's more of like if you're willing to give a little bit too much of yourself, then it's
when you're willing to get lost in that substance, that's where the issue comes in.
Got it.
And every diagnosis has to have a certain duration and a certain frequency. So how often and how long.
Okay.
And so that's why I said, if you're just once a day, I'm having me a little puffy puff. Because today was a rough day. I just need me a little puff or two. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I have to smoke before I do this. I have to smoke before I do this. I have to smoke. I have to smoke. I have to smoke. That's where we're like, hey.
If you get to the point where you can't enjoy regular life.
If you can't
participate.
If you can't sit with sober you, I don't want you using it.
Got it.
If you can't sit with who you are as a sober person, there's some deep rooted things we need to discuss and sort through and get to before I'm comfortable with you continuing to use this substance. Because now the substance is a crutch, not a thing that can help you.
Right.
So, because there has been like a couple times that I've had weed as a way to cure a headache. So I get that there's some good benefits and components in it, but there's a fine line when it comes to it. But
and that's like with any medication, really.
And you cannot come to a session high. You can't do it. High or drunk, I can't do it for you. Because then that impairs your level of thinking and functioning within the session. I need you clear. So there are levels to it, and old school therapists don't want you to have nothing. They don't want you to do it. Take the medication if you need medication.
But the same rules come with the medication too. Like, you know, like the medications that I take, I know for me personally, or like that I have taken in the past as well, like there are some that have addictive qualities to them. And that if you are not careful,
and they're the ones that you can't just stop cold turkey. Like you have to be weaned off of it, Because of how potent they are. Yeah, no, for sure.
So like the way I've seen it was just more of like you can use weed in the form of like medication. It's still going to act as medication though. Right. It's still going to have those same warnings.
Same warnings.
It's medication.
Right. And so that's just my biggest thing. But everything is always in moderation in how you're using what you're using. Right. So it could be Sprites. Sprite could be your niche. That still could be a problem. You're using something to.
Not a Sprite.
I'm just using that as an example. Like some people feel like, oh my gosh, Coke. Do you know how many people? Have you ever seen a cigarette smoker say they either need Coke or coffee?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just that whatever that addictive quality is in cigarettes is also in Cokes and coffee. So, yeah, guys. So, thank you for coming. Thank you for, always kicking it with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you or someone you know are experiencing signs, symptoms, I have plenty of resources down in the description below. If you are looking for a therapist, those resources are also down in the description below. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I promise I will be more consistent with these videos. Until next time, bye.